Greetings, brothers. Apparently everything is messed up. I'm sorry. Give me a shout out if you can hear me okay. I think you still can't see me. Yeah, I know. So I ran to the other room when the countdown was going to get some tissues and stuff because, as you guys probably know from if you were here last night, I am not feeling the greatest. So thanks for tuning in. We're gonna get into some army lists here in a minute. So if there's any if I'm slow or I miss anything today, you guys in chat are gonna have to help me out because I have a bit of a sort of a head cold going on. I'm definitely not firing on all cylinders. I'm definitely not quite with it today. No, I got peace and quiet, so I'm happy to get on with the show. Thanks for tuning in. I noticed a few people saw the new logo. I hope you guys like it. It's supposed to be a Space Marine without being a Space Marine because that way I won't get hurt by Games Workshop. If they're shutting down YouTube channels, I guess mine isn't going to have a Space Marine anymore. So this is my new non-Space Marine for my logo. And I'm sure you noticed the channel's name's also changed from Blood Angels Commander to BA Commander. So I guess we're going to be correct within the IP. No one contacted me or anything. I'm just being safe. So, anyway, today's lists. Let's start with that. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. So we've got Carrie Scott, we've got James Gibb, we've got Bigu, and we've got Herp Derp. And as always, we'll get into them. We'll score them. I did bring up the scoring. Yes. All right. So we're going to score them on our normal categories: OBSEC, anti-horde infantry, anti-vehicle and monster, mobility and specialization, and then we'll also make suggestions. We'll also talk about things and see if we can improve. And I think next weekend, I'm away at a tournament. So next Sunday's show is going to be at a different time. I think it's going to be much later on in the day because I'll be driving home. So if you want to catch a next Sunday show, just make sure you're ready to tune in a bit later on. I think it'll probably go out in the evening, sort of like probably about 5 or 6 hours from now, because I don't think I'll be home. So I can hear you and see you on Twitch. Join the Manflu Detachment, says to Bunte. Thanks for tuning in on Twitch. We always get some people on Twitch, but not that many. I don't know what I have to do to get more followers on Twitch. I keep trying anyway. Okay, so let's start with Carrie Scott's list. And Carrie is one of our channel members, and I see you in the chat, Carrie. Maybe you were a member and you aren't anymore, but regardless, I think you were a member when you submit this list. Okay, thank you for that. So I appreciate, big shout out to all the channel members. So we have a Flesh Tearers detachment, 12 CP. And we're going to spend one extra relic in this detachment. We're going to take Gabriel Seth, who is our warlord, so that means he gets his warlord trait. Gabriel Seth is a monster in close combat. I kind of love him. Do you know what? After doing the tier list videos these last couple of weeks, I actually kind of like the idea of Gabriel Seth inside a Terrax drill. But anyway, Gabriel Seth, he obviously gets to fight twice. If there's models within engagement range, all flesh tears within 6 inches add 1 to their damage characteristic in close combat, which is amazing. I guess if you're using lightning claws, you get 2 damage lightning claws. You can obviously reroll hits for ones or with an aura for Flesh Tearers core units. And I actually don't remember Gabriel Seth's warlord trait off the top of my head. It is warlord trait Merciless Butcher. Each time this warlord is selected to fight, make 1 additional attack with one of its melee weapons for every 5 enemies within 3 inches to an additional of 3 attacks. So potentially Seth gets like 7 attacks, he can fight twice, and that can be buffed up to almost 10 attacks. So, cool. We start with Seth. And I like Seth. I think the delivery method of getting Seth into close combat is probably the most important thing. So maybe we're seeing a little flaw in this list straight away, but anyway. Death Company Captain on the bike, Storm Shield, Teeth of Terra, Imperium Sword, Hero of the Chapter. I like this. This is how I was running my Death Company captain. I'm unsure if he needs Imperium Sword, right? Because he already gets 10 attacks by my reckoning, right? 4 base, 3 for the Teeth of Terra, 1 for Black Rage, and then 2 more for Shock Assault and Savage Echo. So he already gets 10 attacks. So, and I think the strength of him is that you can Furlong Fury him, right, for 1 CP. So I ran mine for a while with Imperium Sword, but I mean, if you run him with 2 relics, Teeth of Terra and Imperium Sword, you're going to use a bunch of command points. So I guess it depends on how much you need command points. Excuse me. Next Sunday is our apocalyptic game. We do that once a year. This year is 10 players, a limit of 600 power level, using the apoc rules from 8th. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second. Ugh. My body is trying to exhale all this crap that's in it, apparently. We then have a Terminator Librarian, Force Axe, Shield of Sanguinius, Blood Boil, Smite, and the Crimson Plate. The Crimson Plate is the Flesh Tearer's relic that lets you move, advance, and charge, which I think is pretty nice. And it can only, I think it gives you 1 inch on your consolidation and your base movement as well, doesn't it? It's been a little while. The Crimson Plate, 1 inch to the Vader's move. He's able to charge in a turn when he advanced, and he can move 4 inches when making a file-in and consolidation. Yeah. So, is Blood Boil the best option here? Would he not benefit more from not wings? What's the other one? You'd benefit a lot from wings as well, being able to fly around the battlefield, but you'd benefit from... Oh, my brain is really failing me today. You'd benefit from quickening quite a bit. So you can reroll your advance and your charge roll, and you get D3 additional attacks, because, I mean, that's kind of the point in the Crimson Plate, is that he can advance and charge and get really far across the battlefield. So rerolling your advance roll, rerolling your charge roll, getting D3 additional attacks. Librarian Terminators don't have that many attacks, right? It's just like 3 attacks. So maximum 5, but with quickening maximum 8. It's quite a big increase. Like if you get a good roll in your quickening, even if you get the average roll, which is 2, you increase his damage output, what, like 7 divided by 5? So you get 40% more damage on an average roll with quickening in his melee, from his melee ability. So that's something to consider. The Imperium Sword might be for reroll charge. Yeah, I mean, I guess the Imperium Sword is good for reroll charge. Blood Boil plus Smite is good for mortal output. It would be better with the staff. Yeah, there's the relic staff that you can give to give +1 to all sanguinary discipline casts. What does Blood Boil do? If the total is higher than the toughness, D3 mortal wounds if it's double. Yeah, I mean, I guess select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches. So it's basically almost like a targetable smite, really. Yeah, I mean, when you look at it like that, you're probably going to make more damage from the Blood Boil, because it's going to be mortal wounds, than you are from giving him quickening, actually. It just seems like the Crimson Plate is wasted in this case. Which is, I guess I probably agree with Steel Rain. You probably just want something to make your casting more reliable, right? So just take the relic Galleon Staff, which is a Blood Angel's relic, which gives you... Each time this model make a psychic test for the sanguinary discipline, add 1 to the psychic test. So it just makes your Shield of Sanguinius and your Blood Boil quite a bit more reliable, I guess. Might be worth thinking about. Like, I feel like if you want to take the Crimson Plate, you want to have something that combos with the melee, and he just doesn't. Thanks for following, Mr. Warby. Appreciate it. Okay, so 5 Assault Interceptors, 1 with a Plasma Pistol. I'd probably say you're better off taking like a Power Sword or something over the Plasma Pistol. The Plasma Pistol, you'll kill your own model. The Power Sword will... I think you'll get more value out of a Power Sword here. Same amount number of points. 2 squads of infiltrators, 120 points. 5 Blade Guard veterans and 3 Assault Centurions. Assault Centurions have the Hurricane Bolters on them, so this is pretty aggressive. Well, I ran my Centurions without Hurricane Bolters, but what's annoying is Centurions don't get Bolter Discipline. I don't really know why. I feel like they used to get it, and they got rid of it for whatever reason, so it's like, it's... I forget where they put that in the codex as well, because they don't... The current army book is so unorganised. You have to flip back and forth all the time. But yeah, I'm convinced Centurions don't get Bolter Discipline. It's like infantry if they didn't move. Terminators. And bikers. Bolter Discipline, here we go. Half range for anything. The shooting model is infantry, excluding Centurions, and it remains stationary, or Terminators or bikers. Yeah, so for whatever reason, you can't rapid fire those Hurricane Bolters at maximum range. Unless yeah. Even if your Centurions remain stationary, you can't rapid fire them at maximum range. Which is a little bit annoying. I also think that, like, it's quite a lot of points. 30 points for how many bolter shots? It's not a lot. Because I have Centurions and I've never been tempted to take these. So really, it's 30 points for 18 bolter shots. Strength 4, 0 AP, 1 damage. I guess if the target's within half range, then it's 36. So yeah, I mean, if you're within half range, it's not bad. But my experience with Centurions is people will try and kill the Centurions from ranged. Because people know in close combat Centurions are absolutely devastating. So people... When I have Centurions on the table, their main job is to soak up fire so my other units can do things. And I think they do a great job of that with their toughness 5 and their 2-up save. But like, I don't necessarily think that you're going to get a lot of value out of... I don't think you're going to get necessarily a lot of value out of the Hurricane Bolters. Maybe you could have 1 Hurricane Bolter if you wanted, but I'm not sure you need 3. Okay, moving on. A Primaris Apothecary, who is the Chief Apothecary, Selfless Healer, and Hero of the Chapter, and I assume that he's going into the middle of the board with the Blade Guard and the Centurions. I mean, that's how I ran these. So I played 4 Blade Guard and 3 Centurions without bolters, and like a Sanguinary Priest, and put in the middle of the board. And it was pretty great. And it is, I think it is a valid tactic. If you can res the Centurions, you can get a lot of value out of them. I'm just not sure the Hurricane Bolters provide all that much value, but let's keep going. 6 Sanguinary Guards, all with axes and 1 Plasma Pistol. I'd probably swap that Plasma Pistol for an Infernal Pistol. I don't know, I just don't rate Plasma Pistols at all. You know, the fact they can kill your own units, I'm really not a fan. I don't know what else there is to say. The fact that they kill your own guys on a roll level 1 just makes them too unreliable for me. And then, you know, Sanguinary Guard are going to be in close combat with melee anyway, so if they're in close combat with melee, arguably you might be able to get one or 2 Infernal Pistol shots off each game, and you know, even a single Infernal Pistol that hits and wounds is going to be more valuable than if you shot that Plasma Pistol 5 times. Yeah, I just don't rate Plasma Pistols. I have a bunch of Sanguinary Guard made with Plasma Pistols, and like, I just don't ever run them. We then have 3 attack bikes, all with multi-meltas, which I guess is a solid choice, especially if you have a priest on the board. You also have the ability to Shield of Sanguinius, maybe the attack bikes or the Centurions or something like that, so that's quite good. 6 suppressors, 2 squads of 3. And we don't see suppressors too often, but I mean, they do a decent amount of firepower. I don't think they're very survivable. I think that's probably their weakness, in that they're just 2 wounds each, right? And if you move and shoot, you're -1 to hit, obviously, because they've got heavy autocannon. But they do turn off Overwatch for infantry units, and I mean, 9 autocannon shots is not bad. I guess when you've got 2 of them, 18 autocannon shots, -1, 2 damage, strength 7. Good evening, Dark Chungus, how you doing? And then we have 1 squad of eliminators with the 3 sniper rifles, and then we have the whirlwind with the castellan launcher. Okay. So I think the one thing that I would take away from this is you don't have a reliable method to deliver Gabriel Seth to battle. And I think that's the one thing that I would probably go about changing here to make this list a lot stronger. You know, a lot of Flesh Terrors players take a drop pod, and I think the value you can get out of that drop pod can be pretty great. Now, I guess if you're going to go Blade Guard, Centurions, and Seth and an Apothecary to the middle of the board, and then kind of do some counter charges, then that'll be pretty strong as well. But also take a couple of turns before, you know, this list doesn't have a lot of shooting, so you're going to have to weather the storm for a couple of turns. And you've got slow units here as well, like your Blade Guards, like your Assault Centurions, like your Assault Infiltrators, like Seth, potentially your Terminator as well. So you're going to have to weather the storm for a couple of turns. Like, you're going to have to be moving across the battlefield, and you're not going to be returning very much fire, period. Your 3 attack bikes can get picked off pretty effectively. Can Seth take a jump pack? No, he can't. What are the thoughts on Fight Last right now? Do you think it's an absolute requirement for any list? I don't think it's a requirement, Cameron, but I think used right, it can help an awful lot. Carrie, you have 6 drop pods and 4 rhinos. Interesting. Steel Ren says, I don't think you need 2 full boss, you'd be better with another. Assault Intercessor squad, also suppressors suck. I think you could probably do, if you want to be more aggressive, which I think you do as a Flesh Tear player, you're probably fine with 1 Infiltrator and 1 Incursor. So maybe you could drop a Incursor squad there. I typically don't use drop pods myself, but that's just because, yeah, I'm more of a jump pack person than a drop pod person, but like, the drop pod, the drop pod's limited by Firstborn. You don't really have any Firstborn in this list, so that's why I'm thinking, like, it's only in my mind because we had that video come out the other day about the Terex pattern drill, right? Oh, Terex is limited by Firstborn as well. Okay, so you need. Yeah, I'm just waiting. Like, if you put Seth, the Blade Guard, the Assault Centurions, and the Priest into the middle of the board, you're going to get shot at for 2 or 3 turns by some armies before you get close to them. Before you get close to the enemy. And maybe that's okay, but in some lists that's going to brutalize you. Like, if you play Admech, you'll be brutalized before you get in combat, I would guess. What's the value of a librarian with Null Zone V's T-Suns and Grey Knights? T-Suns do a horrific amount of mortal wounds in the psychic phase at the moment, Cameron. So I think Soul Warden is probably going to be our best way of countering that, and even that, it's not going to be that strong. So having a couple of denies against Thousand Suns will help, and maybe Soul Warden will help, but it's still going to be pretty rough. Firstborn can't ride the Impulsor, correct? Yeah, that is correct, Darth Chungus. Yeah, I mean, I think that probably you replace one squad of Infiltrators with a squad of Incursors, freeing up 15 points. You drop a squad of Suppressors, so that's freeing up 115 points. I think our drop pod is 80 at the moment, 70, 80. Dedicated Transport, 70. So that gives you 45 points. So I think you would have to drop something else. Could you get rid of these Hurricane Bolters? Or are you attached to the Hurricane Bolters? So you get rid of them, that gives you 75 points. You've almost got enough now to get something else in the drop pod with Seth. And I think Seth, like I already said, like Vanguard Veterans with a Storm Shield and a Lightning Claw around Seth would be very, very good. Because he can make a bunch of their Lightning Claw damage be 2s, right? But yeah, some people are saying Death Company could go in the drop pod. That is very true as well. And some people like to put a character in that drop pod with like an Icon of the Angel or something, so you can get like a bunch of reroll charges, or a Chaplain. And I think that's probably what you need to think about here. Like, I might even go as far as to drop the Eliminators, just so you have enough points to put something in the drop pod. Let's say if you drop the Eliminators, you'd have like 115 points. So you get probably about 5 Company Veterans. I think a Company Veteran with a Storm Shield and a Lightning Claw is 27 points. So you'd have 115 points. So you get like 4 or 5 of them, maybe. Because I think that you want something. If you're playing as Flesh Tears, you don't want to just be walking across the board for 2 turns and being shot at, because in a map that's not friendly to you in terrain, you'll lose half your army, or you'll lose enough of it. Yeah, I mean, some people are maybe even saying drop all the Suppressors. Yeah, I'd probably actually go with that. I'd probably drop all the Suppressors, or drop the Suppressors and Eliminators, and make like a really spicy drop pod. I guess what a spicy drop pod is. Seth, maybe like a Company Champion, who's like that 55 point champion who has an Icon of the Angel, so everybody gets to reroll their charges. And then, Jar Miniatures just said you could take a bunch of Company Veterans with Double Chainsword. I think with Double Chainsword, they're just 19 points per model, right? So you get 6, and actually I don't... Yeah, you could get 6 maybe. Let me check. I forget. Company Veterans, okay, 20 points per model. So they'd just be 20 points per model and give them Double Chainsword, and I mean, they're veterans, so you're getting like... there's a lot of suggestions in chat about getting a Chaplain with Canticle of Hate, Icon of the Angel. I think Icon of the Angel will give you more value than the Canticle of Hate, right? And like, at the same time, you don't want to go too hard on the drop pod, right? Because if it doesn't work out for you, it doesn't work out for you, and you can waste a bunch of points. But I think I prefer the idea of Company Veterans. They start with 3 attacks on the Sergeant and 2 on the other. So if you add 2 Chainswords to both, then the Sergeant gets 5 attacks, and the other ones get 4 attacks. So if you did like 2 squads of 3, 60 points and 60 points, you would get what? And you drop them in turn 1, right? Because you want to get those turn 1 charges off. So each squad of 3 veterans would get 16 attacks, which is just pretty much like, that's not bad. And also the Company Veterans do actually prevent Overwatch if you make a charge with a character as well. If you charge with Seth first, they can't Overwatch at Seth, because he's within 3 inches of the Company Veterans. So yeah, I think a drop pod, which is 70 points. And then like, yeah, so drop the infiltrators, so that gives you 15. Drop a suppressors and eliminators, that gives you 175. So that gives you 200. No, sorry, that gives you 190. Take the drop pod, yeah, that's 70, and then 2 squads of 3 veterans, all with double chain swords. That is the same 120. So in the drop pod, you could have Seth and 2 squads of 3 veterans, or 1 squad of 3 veterans and that company champion who is 55 points, and he could be holding Icon of the Angel, so you could reroll all those charges. I think maybe you could even, like, you could drop the other suppressor squad and go full on that drop pod. But I think drop pods and making that turn 1 charge for Flesh Tearers is important, because otherwise your whole army is just advancing slowly on the battlefield. Suppressors aren't going to kill much. Attack bikes will probably get focused down by the enemy, so they might not get to kill too much as well. And then the company champion's warlord trait is reroll charges. Yeah, he doesn't have to take Icon of the Angel, I guess. He could just have his warlord trait. You're 100% right. Can he have the warlord trait, though, if he's not upgraded? I think he needs to be upgraded to the 70-point version to be able to take that warlord trait. But yeah, 1 squad of eliminators and suppressors gone, I think, and get that drop pod in. That's a good place to start, I think. And also, yeah, 1 squad of infiltrators are a very defensive unit, and I think as Flesh Tearers, if you're going to make that drop pod work, you want to back that drop pod up in turn 2 with like some reinforcements, and that's where a squad of incursors would work, right? Because they can have forward deployment. You could deploy them in thinking about where you're going to put your drop pod. You deploy the incursors so they can make a turn 2 charge, and they obviously have their knives. They have -1 AP. I think it's like 4 attacks per model on the charge. So they can definitely, if you haven't quite done the damage you need to in turn 1, then when the incursors join the battle, 4 attacks on the sergeant and 3 on the other guys. So basically 16 attacks. They can join with their, they're called paired combat blades, but they're knives on the model. If I take the warlord trait on the company champion, I would have to remove either trait on the death or the apothecary. Yeah, I guess. Like I said, I think Imperium Sword is possibly a low value one here, though, right? Because, and I think the reason Imperium Sword is a low value one is, like I said, you already got 10 attacks. If you use Forlorn Fury, you get 12-inch pregame move. Then you get your normal move of 14 inches. So if you get to go first, you get to move. You could potentially move that Death Company captain on the bike 26 inches. And you're going first before you do the Forlorn Fury. So once you know you're going first, for 1 CP, you essentially get like a 26-inch move. If you can't set yourself up for a good charge that doesn't need a reroll at that point, then you've probably not deployed that Death Company captain correctly. Like, I would imagine some of the deployment zones in 9th edition are only 18 inches apart. So if you can do a 12-inch pregame move and then a 14-inch turn 1 move, like, you should be in their deployment zone with a number of different enemies to choose to charge. And I made mistakes with this guy before, thinking he could do a lot of damage, but like, he's really an infantry killer. So like, throw him onto like a primary objective and just have him kill all their OBSEC infantry on it. Like, he's got 10 attacks. If they have a big squad of units on there, use his death vision, and don't be scared to use the death vision early in the game, because even though he is on a bike with T5 and a 4+ invulnerable save, he usually gets quite exposed, right? Because you're just throwing him forward 26 inches on turn 1. So, like, don't be scared to use the death vision very early in the game, even if it's only going to give him, like, a couple of extra attacks. Just use it, because you'll get picked on and you'll get killed because he's going to be out of position. But if you have him slamming into some OBSEC units on an objective on one side of the board, you have a drop pod coming down on another side of the board, that buys you the time to get your big squad of Blade Guard, your Assault Centurions, like a couple of turns forward up the board. And I think that's probably how this list needs to run. Without that, I think it struggles a little bit. Okay, let me think a little bit about scoring. At the moment, you have 3 OBSEC units, so we're looking at like probably like an 8.5. 2 of them are full boss, which is pretty great. Anti-horde in this army is pretty slender. As it stands, I suppose the suppressors do get 18 shots. They could kill a lot of like horde units. Sanguinary Guard get a few Melta shots. We've got a few bikers. I guess the Eliminators could do a little bit of anti-horde. Centurions could do some anti-horde, I guess, if they get in close. Do you know what? It's maybe not as bad as I thought. Not really much long-range anti-horde, though, but I think that's the whole list, right? There isn't a lot of long-range stuff in this list, period. Anti-monster. So we've got our attack bites with multi-meltas, and in terms of 3 damage weapons, we've got these 3 multi-meltas here. We've got the Centurion Fists, and then we've got the Terminator Librarian, and Gabriel Seth has a 3 damage weapon, doesn't? His Chainsword's 3 damage, isn't it? Yeah, his chainsword. Sorry, it's 2 times strength. I was going to say it's plus 2 strength. No, it's times 2, so it's strength 8 minus 2 3 damage. Okay, so there's about 7 3 damage weapons, maybe 8. What happened to Smash Captain builds? Smash Captains, they used to be great because you used to be able to pay stratagems to make them better. Like Red Rampage used to give them D3 additional attacks, and then used to be able to fight again in close combat for, I think it was called Honor of the Chapter. It was like 2 CP and you could just fight again. So if you had a Smash Captain who was in part of the Death Company and had like 10 attacks, you could pay 2 CP to fight again. And usually he was rocking like a mastercrafted Thunderhammer. He could reroll all his hits and stuff. They got the core ability, or the core rule, means that like normally they maybe can't reroll, and they also can't double attacks anymore, Akrons, so that's why we don't really see Smash Captains as much these days. I think Anti-Monster, as the list currently stands, I'm going to give it like a 7.5 as well. I don't think... Oh, that'll maybe break my graph. I have to type it in. I don't think it. I think it's gonna. Like I said, I think it's gonna be slow, and I think that enemies will maybe be able to use this against you. And I think as Flesh Tearers, as much as maybe some people don't like drop pods, I think it's important that you, as a Flesh Tearers player, they play differently. They either. If you want to make the most of their chapter tactic, I think you need the drop pod, because I think you need to be able to reliably deliver Seth, or at least reasonably well reliably deliver him. Mobility, I think, is average. And this is probably why we're saying that we need the drop pod or something like that to make it better. And then you do have the ability to fight last. You do have denies, or 1 deny. You have 3 units for actions. You are slightly low on 3 damage weapons. So something like this, a 39, I think, Carey. Alright. We don't see suppressors very often. I understand why you've taken them to try and prevent some Overwatch from infantry, but if you've already got the Whirlwind, you can use that. You can use that anyway. So, like, I'm not sure what suppressors bring to you. Hey Texan, hey Sanguinius, hey Lucas. Good afternoon, guys. How are you guys doing? Yeah, I mean, I think that's the plan of this list, Steel Rain, was to take Seth and the Bladeguard Veterans and the Assault Centurions and a healer centerboard. I just think against some lists that's going to be rough. If you are going to do that, and you're taking your Terminator Librarian as well, it might be worth even thinking about just swapping out for the Librarius discipline and taking Psychic Fortress. If you take Psychic Fortress, you could take stuff like your Assault Intercessors in that bubble as well. If your Sanguinary Guard are in that bubble to begin with before they jump away. Psychic Fortress would help them as well. So yeah, I think it's an okay list. But I think drop pods are the way forward for flesh tears. I think because this list, like, you don't have a lot of firepower here. It's really on the suppressors, and the suppressors can be targeted and killed pretty easily, right? They're just toughness 4 Marines with 2 wounds. They just evaporate when they get shot at, right? I guess that's why I take Redemptors, because at least Redemptors do as much damage, I would have thought, as suppressors, and probably going to survive like a lot more firepower. What with their Duty Eternal special rule. Okay. Hopefully that was useful, Kerry. Thank you for submitting the list, though. There wouldn't be an army list show without people submitting the lists, so I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on to James Gibb next. And if anyone's tuning in and wondering why I sound like shit, I feel like shit, so hopefully you can bear with me a little bit today. Replace the suppressors Centurions with 2 Redemptors. You could. I like that more. I played Centurions a lot, right? Like, I used them a lot. They were part of the list that I had a lot of wins in a row with, and I really did like them, but like they're mainly there to soak up fire. And people will kill them before they get in melee because Centurions in melee are horrific, So it's like, I don't necessarily know if a Redemptor is just better than Centurions. Like, I think Centurions are going to draw more firepower from the enemy, and I think that's probably kind of what you're looking for here. So I think, but you could swap a couple of Redemptors in any list are going to do well. Redemptors are definitely good. But yeah, I think if you were, I think if you run Seth, my opinion is if you want to run Seth and you want to run him effectively, you need a way to deliver him, because his 6-inch move is just not going to cut it. He's going to spend 2 or 3 turns, half the game probably, moving across the battlefield. Whereas, like, you really just want him in the enemy's face in turn 1 and them having to react. Like, if Seth's in their lines, killing stuff on their objectives in turn 1, you force them onto the back foot straight away, yeah? Okay. James has sent this list over and he said, please can you take a look at it and get prepped for some more competitive games, and it's a battalion. Okay, and he's got CP spend, 2 relics of the chapter, he's got the Angel's Ascendant with Quake Bolts, and he's also got 2 heroes of the chapter, Chaplain and Primaris Apothecary. So we start with the Vindicator Assassin. I guess let's see. I was going to say the Vindicator seems like a fine choice, but I think there are better assassins. We then have Commander Dante, who is the Warlord. Oh, and you've even told me how many 3 damage weapons you've got on this list. Alright, you've been watching this show for sure, James. Appreciate that. Good morning, Scott. How you doing? We then have a Lieutenant in Phobos Armor with Icon of the Angel. Lieutenant in Phobos Armor, can he deep strike? I actually have no idea. I actually don't even really know what a Lieutenant in Phobos Armor looks like. I probably own one. Lieutenant in Phobos Armor. Oh, he does have Death from Above. Yeah, Lieutenant in Phobos Armor. What does he look like? Oh, this guy. Okay, he's one of the few models I actually don't have. I think... Oh no, I have this guy. He came in the he was in part of the Vanguard one. Looks like no one's painted him Blood Angel as well. Has anyone painted him Blood Angels? Oh, some people have. Okay. He's a cool enough model, isn't he? Okay, so we've got Lieutenant in Phobos Armor, and he's carrying the icon. He can be concealed position or deep striked. Can he? It doesn't say concealed position here. Just says Angels of Death, Death from Above. Doesn't look like he's got concealed position. Which is strange, because most of the other ones in Phobos you would expect to have it. But anyway, no, I don't think he's got it. Primarch's Chaplain on the Bike, Litany of Faith, Mantra of Strength, Benediction of Fury, Master of Sanctity, Litany of Hate, Wiserator, and he's also got a 3 damage weapon. Potentially a 4 damage weapon, I guess, with Mantra of Strength going off. I think Phobos equals Concealed Position. Well, I'm looking at the Codex right now, and it doesn't say that this Lieutenant in Phobos armor, he just has Death from Above. I don't think there's anything that specifically calls out Phobos to get Concealed Positions. I would have thought that, like, if we look at another Phobos unit, like Infiltrators, I'm sure it says Concealed Positions, yeah, Concealed Positions. So I don't think they get it for some reason. It seems maybe it's a typo. I mean, it kind of seems to me like he would have Concealed Positions, but anyway. We then move into the troops, and we've got Assault Intercessors, Infiltrators, and a tactical squad with a missile launcher and a sergeant with a storm bolter. So, could switch the tacticals for Intercessors with assault bolters to free up 10 points, but the list is light on long range anti-tank. Okay, so we're going to have, in theory, the Vindicator's 2 CP strat can be used out to swap to another assassin. Yeah, of course it can. And on my first impressions, you don't have any Psyker here, so I would probably think about maybe just starting with a Calixis assassin, because the Calixis is like -2 to all psychic tests, making it much harder for your enemy to do any psychic stuff. She's also really hard to hit, and against certain units they get no saves against her, right? Because only invulnerable saves can be used. I don't mind the one random missile launcher in the tactical squad, I guess. You shoot 5 missiles a game, I guess, and what they hit, you hit like 3 out of the 5. So potentially the missile launcher could get a kill or something. Some people are saying switch it out for just Intercessors with bolt rifles. You could do that as well. But I mean, I don't mind having a random missile launcher in there. It's in some ways it's the same as like me running a random Infernal Pistol on the Sanguinary Guard. Some games that Infernal Pistol on the Sanguinary Guard does nothing. And in another game, maybe you get lucky, and you roll and you do 6 damage. Calixis is best. He has the Fight Last ability too. Yep, and he also, yeah. I mean, the Calixis is difficult for your enemy to kill as well. So I get the attraction to assassinating enemy characters, but in practice, or at least my experience, it's not that effective unless you take multiple assassins, and at that point, it's kind of a big investment. All right, we get into elites. We've got Blade Guard veterans. We've got the Death Company Dreadnought with a pair of Furioso Fists, 1 Heavy Flamer, and a Stormbolter. Pity you don't have enough for 2 Heavy Flamers, but that's probably okay. A Death Company with 2 Thunder Hammers, an Infernal Pistol and a Power Fist, a bunch of Chain Swords, 1 more Infernal Pistol for good measure, and a bunch of 3 damage weapons in here. I went for the I guess the Fist and Pistol instead of another hammer. Yeah, I mean, a Pistol and Fist is actually okay, I think, compared to another hammer. Some people really like hammers over pistols and fists, but I think you can make both of them work. Single shot weapons are unreliable. That's very true, Steel Rain. But sometimes it is nice to have a random missile launcher or a random melta gun that you can shoot. So it's you're taking a little bit of a gamble, but when the gamble plays off, it'll feel pretty good. A Primaris Apothecary, who's the chief Apothecary, he's also got the Reliquary of Gathmore. That's that anti-psychic thing, right? I've never run this myself. Reliquary of Gathmore, yeah, so this is, if any Psyker does it, psychic power within 18 inches of this, subtract 1 from the psychic test, and if it's failed, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds on a 4+, sorry. that model suffers. So that combos really well with the Calixis. So you have the Primaris Apothecary and the Calixis. That's a -3 to all psychic tests within the 18 inches. That's generally very good. That's probably what I would... if someone was in here earlier about how do we feel about fighting against Thousand Suns, and I said maybe you want to take Soul Warden as the best counter. No, I think the best counter is probably this, like the Reliquary of Gathimor and a Calixis Assassin, because like some of the T-Sun's powers are like Warp Charge 7, so you're making them like Warp Charge 10 if they're within 18 inches of the bubble. That's pretty good. Sanguinary Guard, 1 Power Fist, 1 Axe, mainly swords. I mean, axes I believe are a little bit better right now. But both swords and axes are kind of 50-50. They're both good. Steel Rain saying he doesn't think the Reliquary is worth it unless you have another minus. Yeah, so I think the first thing I would do is... Well, let's keep going, right? We then have Inceptors with Assault Bolters, which I'm running at the moment, and I kind of like. They're good for performing actions. They have a reliable 18 Strength 5 bolter shots. They generally mop up some units. They're not bad. We then have an Eliminator squad, Instigator bolt rifle, and Quake bolts, so that the sergeant can he can shoot on a 2+, and then the squad can move again. The Quake bolts help bringing to hit bonuses in all melee, and then the Whirlwind of the Castellan launcher, obviously to provide suppression fire, fight last, etc. So I guess the Eliminators, I guess, are designed to combo with the Vindicator Assassin, but I think I'd probably aim to combo the Calixis with his Apothecary, and then maybe find a better use of the 75 points. Mind you, so when I ran one squad of Eliminators, I didn't think that they were that impressive. What do people think? Does one squad of Eliminators valuable? I know Steel Rain and Reziel, you guys use Eliminators quite a bit, right? Is it worth, in this list, is it worth keeping one squad of Eliminators? I mean, we could move our Quake bolts onto another unit. That's neither here nor there, right? Like, another unit could definitely have the Quake bolts. So I guess the question is the Eliminators going to be worth it? I'm sorry, guys. I'm just a bit under the weather today. Okay, the theory is to have the Sanguinary Guard, Dante, Inceptors, and the Phobos Lieutenant in Deep Strike Reserve. So Sanguinary Guard, Dante, yep. Deploy the tactical squad in the backfield for screening. The Whirlwind and Obsec with a missile launcher to have some sniping threat. Infiltrators doing what infiltrators do. Eliminators deployed early in terrain with a commanding view to force the opponent to hide characters. A slow moving castle of the Assault, Intercessors, Blade Guard, and Primaris Apothecary to move centerboard for Oath. Assault, Intercessors, Blade Guard, Primaris. Okay, the Death Company and Primaris Chaplain looking for turn 1 charge, using Forlorn Fury, an adaptive strategy if needed to give the +1 attack and AP. With the Death Company Dread on the opposite flank as a distraction card effects, Vindicator appears with line of sight on a character, ideally in a position to retrieve Octaria's data the next turn. I don't think the Vindicator... I think characters can't do retrieve Octaria's data right now. Let me check that. But yeah, I have a lovely headache today, so maybe I'm remembering wrong. Yeah, excluding characters. So you can't do retrieve Octaria's data with your Vindicator. I mean, you can do it with your Eliminators, right? Turn 2 Deep Strike, Inceptors, Phobos Lieutenants take out objective sitters on a suitable objective with Descent of the Angels if needed. Turn 3 the Golden Host descends and links up with the Phobos units who may need to advance in the Chaplain. I feel this may be sort on high damage weapons, but I'm trying to make a rounded list for tournament play. I've deliberately dropped Psychic, and depending on who am I facing, I may spend 2 CP to switch to Vindicator to Calixis Assassin for Psychic heavy armies to put -3 on Psychic tests and sever mortal wounds. I mean, that's the most exciting part of the synergy we have there. 2 squads or 1 plus Phobos Captain, otherwise drop them. 1 squad of Eliminators are a no for me. They're like Dreadnoughts, minimum of 2. Howdy, Pedrog. No, I just have a really nasty cold, I guess. My wife had it. She did a COVID test. She's negative, so it's just a cold. But yeah, I feel terrible. I felt way more terrible on the stream last night. So you missed me coughing like and spluttering every 2 seconds. Okay, so Eliminator Squad are a question mark. And you're trying to build a list that does everything. So I like Quake Bolts. I actually really like Quake Bolts. I guess, is there another character that can run the Quake Bolts? Or could the Blade Guard Veteran Sergeant run the Quake Bolts or something? I know it's not as reliable, but like, what could we do better with these 75 points? So we have a Whirlwind, we have Assault Intercessors, we have a decent sized Sanguinary Guard, we've got the Apothecary. Do you know the thing that stands out to me is when you say 3 Blade Guard Veterans plus the Sergeant, I assume you mean this is a 4-man Blade Guard Veteran squad, right? 8-man Death Company Dreadnought, Missile Launcher. Okay, I don't know what we're doing with these 75 points yet. I'd rather go the other way. Start with Eclexis and swap in the Vindicator if you really need the character killing. I think I agree with Holy there. I think that gives you quite a few more options, really. Don't clown on the Quake Bolts too much. What do you mean clown? Use the 75 points for 2 more Sanguinary Guard. Sanguinary Guard do die very, very fast. I might use the 75 points for like 1 more Sanguinary Guard and 1 more Blade Guard Veterans. Because Blade Guard, the strength of this list is to have that giant squad of Blade Guard that can sit in the middle and just soak up a ton of fire, get a lot of value out of transhuman physiology. And 5 keeps you within that 1 CP range for transhuman, right? I also said that the Death Company Dreadnought would be a lot better with a double heavy flamer. How much is a heavy flamer on a Death Company Dreadnought? Is it 5 points? Hope you can smell. Yeah, I can smell fine. I can taste fine. It's definitely not COVID. I did way too much exercise the last 2 days as well because we're moving house, right? So like I did like 15,000 steps both days when I was feeling a little bit under the weather. It was stupid of me. Death Company Dreadnought, Heavy Flamer is 5 points. Yeah, so I drop the Eliminators. You've got 75 points. I'd spend 5 on a Heavy Flamer. I'd spend 35 on another Blade Guard Veteran. I'd spend 32 on a Sanguinary Guard. So you've got 8 Sanguinary Guards. You've got 5 Blade Guard Veterans. You've got that double Heavy Flamer on the Death Company Dreadnought, and you've got 3 points left over. What was this coming in as? 199 points. So you've got 4 points left over. I don't know what you can do with 4 points. Could you give the Tactical Marine Sergeant a Lightning Claw or something? That's 3 points. I actually have no idea if a Tactical Marine Sergeant can take a Lightning Claw. Oh, it's 5 points on him. Oh, that sucks. It's 3 points on Vanguard Vets to take a Lightning Claw, but it's 5 on the Tactical Marine. Okay, I don't know what you can spend 4 points on then. I really don't know. Apparently, there's nothing else in this list you could spend 4 points on. Yeah, I don't think there is. Assault Intercessors? No. 5 points is the cheapest as well. Okay. Ugh. I like your anti-psychic power. I ran 4-man Blade Guard Veteran squads and I moved back to 5 because I think 5 is just it's a lot scarier for the opponents to deal with, and if you're running a priest, it keeps them in the game like a lot longer, I guess. So if you transhuman Blade Guard veterans, I think it's pretty impossible for an enemy to kill them in a single turn if you have 5 of them. I had 3 of them, and I definitely seen 3 of them die in a single turn. So if 3 of them die in a single turn, then arguably 4 could maybe die, but like I don't think anyone kills 5 if you transhuman them in a single turn. The reason to have the double heavy flamer on the Death Company Dreadnought means it's very difficult for the enemy to charge him, because he's got all those strength 5 -1 heavy flamer shots. Thanks for tuning in, Rizio. The Vindicar was the pick based most recently against Admech. Do you know what? The Calixtus would be good against Admech as well, though, because they get weight of fire, but they'd only hit them they'd only be hitting him on 6s, right? Because the Vindicar has, the Calixtus has that cool. Oh, what's it called? I actually forget what the name of the rule's called. I probably can't spell Calixtus Assassin. Not when I'm. Here we go. Oh, I think I did spell it right. Ethereum. When resolving attack against this model, the attacking model is treated having a weapon skill and ballistic skills character of 6. So against the weight of fire that you get from Admech, this might actually be helpful as well, in that like they're shooting you 50 times or something as Admech normally do. At least they're only hitting you on 6s, right? Okay. Let me think a little bit about scoring then. Right, we have 3 troop choices and 1 is Phobos. So I think that's like an 8. Anti-Horde. We've got our Interceptors, we've got our Whirlwind. We'll just review it as it is at the moment. I guess you've got your Eliminators can do a tiny bit of anti-Horde. Your Sanguinary Guard bolt guns can do a little bit of anti-Horde. 1 heavy flamer and a Stormbolter, maybe. A frag missile. Okay, so it's a tiny bit stronger than the last list, but I was going to say, is it a tiny bit stronger? Or is it the same? I think it actually might be the same. Yeah, I think a 7.5 is probably about average for the anti-Horde. Now, I try not to include too much melee in the anti-Horde, because ideally you don't want your Death Company equipped with Thunderhammers and Power Fists and all the likes killing cultists, for example, or Poxwalkers, or something that is very Horde-based, right? The problem with the Vindicator is there's no way to reroll. Every time I've taken him, he misses or fails to wound multiple turns. Yeah, I mean, that comes back to your single shot weapons are unreliable, Steel Rain, right? You'll have games where the Vindicator does nothing, and then you'll have another game where he just assassinates 2 characters 2 turns in a row. He's very swingy. Okay. Excuse me. 3 damage weapons then. Let's look, because I think you've marked this out for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that it? 8 3 damage weapons? Okay. I'd probably maybe drop like the Power Fist here and put an Infernal Pistol in. Typically, I don't really like Power Fists on Sanguinary Guard. I think the bonus you get to the wound roll is countered by the -1 to hit, so it kind of means you're paying 5 points for basically nothing. If I'm an Admech player and my opponent brings a Calixtus Assassin, why would I even bother shooting it? Well, yeah, I mean it's going to be a big waste of your firepower, which is kind of my point, right? Like, it's going to be a lot more useful to you than a Vindicator Assassin, I think. I actually don't know how many units in the Admech Codex have the Bodyguard special rule. I literally have no idea. I haven't looked enough at that Codex. It's no threat, is what I mean. It's not a huge threat. because everything in your army has invulnerable saves, right? But like, it could tie up some units. Yeah, exactly. That's what Steel Rain's saying. That if you charge it into some enemy units, now they're stuck only hitting it on 6s. And if it's like if it's an infiltrator squad with only 2 attacks and they have 20 attacks and they only hit on 6s, they're only going to hit it like what's 20 divided by 1.66666? It's not going to be much, like 3 and change. Wrong way round. 20 times 1.666. Sorry. Yeah, so they basically would, like, if you charge your Calixtus Assassin into a blob of like 10 Sicarian infiltrators, they're only going to hit it 3 times. I'm probably not spelling this right either. Their strength 4. What is their sword? Strength 5, I guess? With their... Oh, well, they can... I suppose they could, like, if they're armed with the tasers, they could use their tasers, right? Okay. Bad example, because they get 2 additional hits. But, against some other units, yeah, the fact that the Calixtus can only be hit on 6s means that they'll end up stuck in combat with it for a couple of turns. I mean, this is why the Calixtus can just about charge anything in the game, right? Because, like, even Mortarion, for example, is going to struggle to kill the Calixtus because he can only hit it on 6s. But, I mean, the Assassin isn't going to do a lot in melee, sure. But it's also just going to bog you down, and maybe that's precisely what you need it to do. You know, bog down a unit that's normally going to shoot you pretty nastily, and have them bogged down in close combat, and they, you know, the Calixtus has a 4-up invulnerable save, so arguably, if you were attacking something that didn't have like bursting 6s like these guys and just had power swords, arguably you're gonna survive like 3 or 4 rounds of combat against them. So like your one character is gonna lock up like quite a large shooting unit that has like pistol 5s, for example. Like, those things are kind of stupid. But anyway, you know, potentially by being locked in combat there, you just prevented 50 pistol shots every turn, or I guess 30 of another pistol, because these guys are cool enough that they carry 2 pistols. Okay. I think Power Fist versus a new Orc are an okay shout, as their 4+ transhuman and strength 8 means that they won't. Yeah, Power Fist against the new Orcs are an okay shout. Against the Snakebite Orcs, I believe, Highland, but I hate how we have to try and tailor our armies for, like... I hate how we have to put Power Fists in for just fighting this one army. We already have to put 3 damage in for fighting Death Guard, like... Ugh. I guess most people, Power Fists are not in a great spot right now. They really aren't. So yeah, it's a tough one. Anti-monster then, what we got for anti-monster? We've got our 8 3-damage weapons. We've got an 8-man Death Company with Thunder Hammers, Infernal Pistols, and Power Swords. 7-man Sanguinary Guard. That 1 random missile launcher. The Death Company Dreadnought. And then I guess the Chaplain on the bike with his nasty 3-damage weapon. I guess this is a little bit stronger, maybe like 8-5. Mobility-wise, Assault Intercessors and Tactical Marines aren't mobile, neither the Blade Guard or the Death Company Dreadnought. But pretty much everything else is. I think I do, in most situations, I think I generally prefer the Calixtus Assassin here. And then we have a fight last anyway, but Assassin would give us 2 fight lasts. We do not have any denies, but we have -1 to psychic powers. We've got 3 units for actions, and we've got 8 3-damage weapons. So overall, the specialization is pretty good. It's not the greatest. Would taking away the -1 on the power fists help fix it? I mean, I guess the problem, Big Chief, is can anyone else confirm I posted my list? When did you post it? Like just today or something? Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I see that you've posted it 35 minutes ago. Okay. The problem, I guess, with the Power Fist is that it's like a marine weapon, right? So it's part of the Marine Codex. So it's hard for them to balance it, I guess. Because obviously all the Marine factions can take it. How do you post your list? You go onto YouTube and you go over to the Blood Angels Commander YouTube channel or the BA Commander YouTube channel. It looks something like this. And then you hit community. And in the latest community thread, it doesn't matter what the community topic is about, just hit comment here and post your list in as a comment there. And I'll find it. Okay. So I think specialization is like an 8. Maybe it could be 8.5. I think if we'd gone the way of the Collector's Assassin, I think maybe it would have been a 9 for specialization. I think if you'd taken an Infernal Pistol here over the Power Fist, maybe we could have gone up to like a 9 for anti-monster. And maybe if we removed those Eliminators and improved this Angry Guard, improved this Heavy Flamer, improved this, we could have gone up another little bit as well. It's not a bad list, James. I actually kind of like it. I would probably run this myself. Obviously, I would probably make those tweaks because I find that when I ran one squad of Eliminators on their own, they didn't do all that much. I feel like Eliminators plus a Phobos Sword Captain or 2 squads of Eliminators is the right way to run them. And also, what was the other thing? Yeah, the random missile launcher. I can't, it is random and it is swingy and it is a one-shot weapon, so that sure there's times it's going to do nothing, but like, it does just give you a random bit of punch. I'd probably swap out the Stormbolter on this Sergeant. I don't think that's going to make any difference in the game. I'd either give that Sergeant like a power sword or something, so if they do charge that squad, your power sword Sergeant can go to town and get some attacks. Yeah, I phoned Andrew actually, Mark, and said, "Are you still wanting to play tomorrow? Because I definitely have a cough. I'm not feeling too well." And he was like, "Yeah, I want to play." So I was like, "All right." So maybe I'm going to infect him tomorrow. We'll see. Okay. Yeah. So 40.5. A few tweaks there, and hopefully you can improve from here. But yeah, I think there's too many things that do -1 damage now. So when you run Power Fists into them, unless the Power Fists had a special rule, like the chains, like if we could have Chain Fists, I guess, and they were the same points, like the Chain Fists where you do like a bonus against vehicles, then I'd be willing to pay for them. But yeah, it's a weird one. Power Fists to me definitely feel neutered in this current edition. Like, they just don't feel strong. And if you're paying 5 extra points for them in the Sangre Guard, and they just don't feel strong. Maybe if Sangre Guard went back to 30 points per model, maybe I could get on board with like taking a Power Fist or 2. But like, they're already so expensive. When you put a Power Fist on a Sangre Guard, it's 37 points. A Death Company guy with like a Thunderhammer is 40 points, so you're only paying 3 more points for like more attacks and a Thunderhammer over the Power Fist. It's a tough sell. Sure, the Sangre Guard have slight better armor save, but like, I mean, Death Company do have a feel no pain. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's 37 points for a Sangre Guard with a Power Fist seems like a lot to me. Hey guys, it's my list for the next local tournament. What do you think? Okay, this is from Bigu. And we start with the Vanguard detachment, and HQ1 is a Sanguinary Priest, Chief Apothecary, Jump Axe, Selfless Healer, and Armor Indomitus. And we've talked about this before, quite a few people. A Death Company with a Hammer is 37. Why? Oh, I'm including the Jump Pack, right? I think they're 40 with the Jump Pack, right, Holly? I've talked a few times about putting the Armor Indomitus on the Sanguinary Priest, and I just don't think it's the right call, because the priest shouldn't be in combat. If the priest's in combat, arguably you've got him in the wrong place. So I think it's kind of a wasted relic. I mean, I guess some people are really going to want to kill the priest, right? And I guess sometimes maybe the priest gets left behind. Like if he's with a squad and the squad makes their charge and the priest doesn't charge, he can get left behind. So maybe Armor Indomitus makes some sense, but like I don't overly like it. Combat relics are a waste of CP on the Sanguinary Priest, says Steel Rain. So someone else agrees with me that they don't like it. We then have 5 Death Company Marines, just chainswords and bolt pistols. We then have a Blade Guard Veteran Squad, and it's just a 3-man Blade Guard Veteran Squad with the Neo-Volkite pistol and the Sergeant. I like the Neo-Volkite pistol and the Sergeant. I just think 3 men are too little, because 3 men are enough that they can get wiped out in a single turn. And if you're going to use a Sanguinary Priest, Power Fist could do a mortal wound on a 6. Yeah, I mean, something to get them more competitive. That might be cool. There's a lot of options, I suppose, and I just think the -1 damage to the Power Fists against Death Guard, against Custodes, against Dreadnoughts, it's horrific. It's really rough when you're already -1 to hit. So 3-man Blade Guard Veterans for me isn't the greatest, but we'll move on. We then have 6 Sanguinary Guard, 3 axes, 3 swords, 1 Infernal Pistol. I like this. We then have 5 Sanguinary Guard, 2 axes, 3 swords, 1 Infernal Pistol. So in total 11 Sanguinary Guard against 2 squads. Single Redemptor, Macroplasma Onslaught, and then Vanguard Veterans. 5 with Jump Packs, Lightning Claws, and Storm Shields, and then Eradicators. Okay. This is most definitely a tournament list. We've got a lot of meta picks here, and Eradicators picked probably over Attack Bikes, just cause Eradicators point for point can do a lot of damage. We then have Primaris Chaplain on a bike with the Mantra of Strength, the Canticle of Hate, the Master of Sanctity, the Vox of Spiritum giving him 3 inches bonus to his auras, and he also has Rites of War. Does Rites of War get affected by the Vox of Spiritum? Is it an aura? I have no idea. Rites of War. Yeah, Rites of War is an aura, so but arguably it would be affected by the Vox of Spiritum. So he's got a 9-inch bubble of Obsec here. Mantra of Strength and Canticle of Hate to give him the bonus damage and the rerolls. The Chaplain on the bike is a great character. He's very strong. We have a Librarian Dreadnought. We got Quickening and Wings and Speed of the Primarch and a Heavy Flamer. Interesting choice, Speed of the Primarch. I feel like Iron Resolve is the right pick for the Librarian Dreadnought, making him more survivable and giving him a 6+ shrug. The Vox only applies to the leadership aura on the Chaplain. Why? Adds 3 inches to the range of the bearer's aura abilities to a maximum of 9 inches. Rites of War is an aura. You're just trolling me at this point, Holy. You're like, John is ill. I'm just going to say shit to throw him off. Okay. Excuse me. Speed of the Primarch, I guess, gives him that interrupt. If he's charged, he's still in that fight first bracket. I think Speed of the Primarch has more value now than it did before, obviously, when they changed fight first stuff. I'm just not sure it's the right pick. But it is interesting to have like your Librarian Dreadnought as potential a free interrupt every round of combat. Gift of Foresight is good on Librarian Dreadnought as well. I actually prefer Gift of Foresight on a character that has an invulnerable save, because I think one of the most important parts of that Benno, is the reroll in the save. But and obviously Librarian Dreadnought doesn't win invuln save, so you could throw that into the mix as well. But Speed of the Primarch or Iron Resolve, I guess, are both good. I prefer Iron Resolve, but I understand why they've taken Speed of the Primarch here. An Incursor squad, and then an Infiltrator squad. Oh yeah, because the Vanguard detachment had no troop choices, and then our Whirlwind with a Castellan launcher. So we've got 2 Phobos units, 1 Infiltrators for defensive deployment, 1 Incursors for offensive deployment. We've got the Whirlwind, we've got the Primaris, Chaplain and Bike, Librarian Dreadnought, and the Priest. We've got a 5-man Death Company. I imagine you would deep strike that 5-man Death Company, because I don't think they warrant much for a Furlong Fury if it's just 5-man. The 3 Blade Guard veterans, the 11 Sanguinary Guard across 2 squads, 1 Redemptor, and the Vanguard vets. Just having that 1 Redemptor is a little bit of a question, right? Because we always talk about how Dreadnoughts work better with the rule of 2. I think, Mark, you're right. The reroll of the save is clutch. If you can actually give Armor Indomitus to the character that has the reroll, that's super good as well, giving him the 3+ invulnerable save and a free reroll on that. Oh, excuse me. I did not sleep well based on this cold, so apparently I'm really tired as well. And then 2 squads of Eradicators. And it's hard to argue with Eradicators, right? Because we know point for point they do a lot of damage. I tried to run them, because you know me, I usually run attack bikes. I tried to run Eradicators in a few battles, and I didn't like their mobility when you compare them to attack bikes. Like my list last week, CP is a challenge and probably reserving 1 squad of Eradicators. Yeah, CP is a challenge here in 5. And I guess that's the other thing about attack bikes, is each attack bike is 3 power level. So in my list, 2 attack bikes and your company veterans all go into 1 CP, which is kind of nice. Whereas, like, if you reserve a squad of Eradicators, you cannot reserve almost anything else with them for only 1 CP, right? Because company veterans are... I think they changed the power level on the company veterans. I think they used to be 2 and now they're 3, is that right? No, company veterans were always 3 power level, so you can't put like a squad of Eradicators and company veterans into reserve, which is what I would like to do. That's why attack bikes is nice, because you can get the attack bikes and the veterans into reserve. Okay. 11 Sanguinary Guard is good. The 5 Death Company. You know, here's the thought though, right? Like, Death Company Marines, 5 of them. So toughness 4, 3+ save, 6+ feel no pain. 125 points, can't perform any actions. And yeah, they do get 30 chainsword attacks when they charge, if it's turn 3. If it's before that, it's less. So if it's turn 2, it's 24 chainsword attacks, I think. Or 25, would it be? Yeah, it would be 25, 5 per model. So 25 chainsword attacks, but you have to make a 9-inch charge, and after that you can't perform any actions. Bolter Inceptors, 120 points, toughness 5, same 3-up save, and 1 less wound. So you trained 1 wound and a 6+ shrug for 1 more toughness. And you can perform actions, and you don't need to make the charge, and you get 18 shots. You can make a charge if you do really well with the, if you bolt or Inceptor 18 shots and kill a bunch of models and there's still a charge on, you can make a charge. I mean, Inceptors aren't terrible in close combat, are they? Right? They're Primaris, so they're Gravis. So you're in turn 2, for example, you would get 10 attacks with them. So if you actually take their shooting and their combat together, they get more attacks than the Death Company. They also can perform actions, and they're probably just as survivable, I would argue. So I mean, I used to run Death Company. I have a lot of Death Company models, but I currently run Bolter Inceptors. I think it's a better choice. And also in CP starved armies like this, because 5 CP starting is CP starved. I start with 6 CP in my list, and I am CP starved, I would say. You don't want to have to, like, you bring down your, like, far too many times I've brought my Death Company down. Oh, they failed their charge. I'm struggling on CP, so I'm not going to re-roll it. Guess what? They get killed in no man's land next turn. Your 5 Inceptors can come down 18 inches away, or maybe not 18 inches, maybe, let's say, 15 inches away. So enough away that it's going to be very difficult for the enemy to charge you. Hose the enemy with all those bolt shots, then move forward 10 inches next turn, hose them again, and then charge them and finish them off, right? It's much better. And also, if you bring down the Inceptors in turn 2, then you're in Tactical Doctrine, and their bolters are -2, which is better than what the Chainswords are going to be. They're also going to be... They're pretty much going to be wounding on the same, because their bolters are strength 5, and your Chainswords are going to be strength 4 with +1 to wound, right? I would try and bump the Sanguinary Guard up in squad in size somehow. I don't know if he's got the points for that. I would trade out the Death Company Marines for Inceptors. I think they're just better. I would love to see a 4th Blade Guard veteran in there, but I don't think we can do it based on the squad sizes we have. The only way we could maybe improve the rest of the list would be to lose one of the Phobos units and get some company veterans in here. And we definitely have room to, like, there's definitely space in here for veterans, right? Because there's 120 points of troops. We could have, like, I think my squad of veterans is 2 veterans, 2 Storm Shields, 1 Lightning Claw, 51 points. So if we did that, you would save 69 points, plus the 5 points for swapping out those Death Company. That's 74 points. Like, what could we do with 74 points? Well, with 74 points, we could add a 4th Blade Guard, and we could make both our Sanguinary Guard 6s. That sounds pretty nice. It sounds... Or we could add the Blade Guard and have 2 squads of... There's 2 elite spaces here in this patrol detachment, so we could have 2 squads of veterans. I think if you want to make the Death Company work, you need to have a Thunderhammer in there. And I think if you're just running Chainswords, then I think the Inceptors are the more reliable unit. And remember as well, Inceptors, if you bring them in, they can also perform an action and shoot if you want them to. I think it's called Unrelenting Firepower, something like that. So you can bring them in turn 2, perform your Octavius data, and still shoot their full 18 shots, which is pretty tasty. Uncompromising fire, sorry. And then the other thing that's also pretty nice with Inceptors is you can play Death from, I forget what it's called, Descent of the Angels, to make them hit on 2s. I guess on the grand scheme of things, that gives you a few more bolter shots. I like the Inceptors a lot, actually. It was Reziel that got me onto them, I think. And yeah, I think the bolter Inceptors are kind of like a staple in my list now. Descent of the Angels, 1 CP. Each time a charge roll is made for that unit, you can ignore the modifiers. Each time a model in unit makes attack, add 1 to the attack's hit roll. So when we were talking earlier about the Inceptors arriving, shooting and charging, the +1 that they would get from Descent of the Angels will benefit both their shooting and their charging. So I think Inceptors are better here. I think the Blade Guard on a 3-man is a little bit questionable to me. But apart from that, most of the other stuff in the list is pretty good, right? 5 Death Company with 4 Thunderhammers and Missile. Yeah, I think that is so risky. Obviously, the guy that did really well in the Grand Tournament did that, but like for me, I'm scared to do that. That's so risky. All right, so as it stands, we've got 2 Phobos units and the Whirlwind, I guess. So we're looking at something like 7.5 for OBSEC. Anti-Horde. I mean, we've got our Redemptor. We've got like our Sanguinary Guard bolters. We've got our Infiltrators and our Cursors and our Whirlwind. So not a whole lot of anti-Horde. I guess Those Death Company with chainswords are going to be hitting hordes, so we'll give them an 8. But I think it would be better if we replace the Death Company with bolter Inceptors. Anti-vehicle monsters. Well, we've definitely got some. We've got all those Eradicators. We've got the Librarian and the Chaplain both geared up to do a good bit of damage. We've got all those Sanguinary Guard, Infernal Pistols, and both Sanguinary Guard as well. Yeah, I think it's going to be like the similar 8-5. Mobility is fairly good, except Eradicators. Probably just Eradicators are the one thing that sticks out is like not mobile, and that's one of the reasons I don't like Eradicators is because they aren't that mobile. And then 3 damage weapons, we have Librarian Dreadnought, Chaplain, so that's 2, Eradicators, that's 6, Infernal Pistol, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we've got a very good number of 3 damage weapons here. I think 11, 12. I think it's 12 3 damage weapons. So when we talk about he's got the Fight Last from the Whirlwind. He's got 1 deny from the Librarian, so not great, but he does have 1. We've got a couple of units for actions. We have a good number of 3 damage weapons. I think Specialization comes in at like a 9 as well, something like that. Upon Wings of Fire, the Inceptors, if they get a charge as well, but better with a bigger squad. I mean, Hammer of Wrath. Yeah, I wouldn't play Hammer of Wrath on a 3-man unit, no way. It's much more for like a 10-man Death Company or a 8-man Sanguinary Guard or something. The Chaplain with the Cantle of Hate would help you deep strike the 5 Death Company with Thunderhammers. That's very true. The Eradicator's mobility won't matter a ton if they walk onto the board turn 2. That's true as well, but like this list is going to be crazily CP starved to be able to do that. Yeah, maybe we actually need to knock that down to like an 8.5 because I need to add a new thing here, like how many CP? Because yeah, it's going to be 5 CP. If you reserve something, it's going to be 4 CP. 4 CP is pretty rough. I start my list with 6 CP and I feel that it's pretty rough. So, cool list, Bigu. Thanks for submitting it. Hopefully we've made some suggestions on how you can improve it. I wonder if you do need 2 Redemptors though. Like 1 Redemptor on his own is just going to be a bullet magnet and he's probably going to die. That's why some people recommend you have a couple. But to do that, I guess you need to switch out a few things. And also the Blade Guard veterans, I like them a lot. I just don't think 3 men is enough. I think 4 is probably your bare minimum. And then the Armor Indomitus and the Priest is a little bit of a question mark. I was toying last night and dropping it down. Don't do it, Highland Phoenix. 4 CP. I'm starting on 6 and then choosing to reserve some stuff. And like if you're on less than 6, if you're starting on 5, which I am after I've done the reserves, it's really rough. I agree with that. The thing about the Judiciar is the Judiciar is going to work a lot better with Selfless Valor, which is potentially going to cost you a CP again anyway, so like, are you going to be better off or are you not going to be better off? It's a tough one. Okay, we're going to move on to list number 4 for today. I didn't put the lists up at the top of the video, I'm sorry. So you just have to bear with me today. I'm definitely not firing on all cylinders. So, and then I think tomorrow night, I'm playing against Andrew in preparation for our tournament next weekend. I'm going to try and make some videos from that tournament as well. I'm definitely going to take a camera with me. I am unsure what all I'm going to video. And maybe I'm going to do like some vlogging, maybe. I might do a live stream, we'll see. So I don't know what's going to happen next weekend, but I am away Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we'll still have a tactics video coming out on Friday for sure. Sunday's Army List show will be later. And Saturday night's live stream will probably not be going ahead unless it's just me from the hotel talking about things. But we'll see what my internet connection is like in that hotel, I guess. Okay. Running a list at the moment with 3 characters. Probably not all that optimal, but some feedback would be good. I play mostly against my friends Imperial Knights, and I love Death Company and Thunderhammers. Okay. You might have submitted one last week, Holy, but there's a pretty big queue of lists. The list for members, I think the queue is about 3 weeks. For non-members, I think it's about 10 weeks, right? Like, I probably get like 5 or 6 list submissions every week, and we only do 4 a week, so we definitely have a little bit of backlog on lists. Okay, so we start with a patrol detachment with the warlord Dante, who obviously has the trait heroic bearing. We have a librarian with a jump pack. He's a relic. He's a relic Tomb of Malkador, not Time of Malkador. Spells: Might of Heroes, Psychic Fortress, Shield, and Sanguinius. You can't do this anymore. You have to take all your powers from one discipline, so you would have to take. Do you know what? Null Zone is really strong. You're playing against knights. Null Zone might be the right one. Null Zone or Veil of Time, maybe. Or maybe just drop Relic of Malgador, but you can't switch things from multiple disciplines now. We then have a squad of infiltrators. Elite-wise, we have Death Company with jump backs, 4 hammers, 4 chainswords, and a power fist and a pistol. I think that must be an infernal pistol. And then another Death Company, 4 hammers, 4 chainswords, and pistols. Wow, okay. We don't often see 2 large squads of Death Company in a single list, but I mean, I guess he said he loves them. I think that there's almost no point having 2. I mean, unless, I guess you just love Thunderhammers. If this was me, I would run 1 Death Company and 1 Sanguinary Guard. We then have fast attack Plasma Inceptors, and we have a Whirlwind, the 2d6 shot one with the Castle and Launcher, correct? Detachment number 2 is a patrol detachment, the Sanguinary Priest, Selfless Healer, and Icon of Angel. And the Chief Apothecary, this is now 155 points, so this has gone up like 20 points. Troop Infiltrators, then 7 Sanguinary Guard. Oh, right, so the second detachment is 7 Sanguinary Guard with fists and 7 Sanguinary Guard with swords. Okay, wow. This is a pretty simple list. We have 2 squads of infiltrators to sit and hold objectives, and we have 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard and 2 squads of Death Company, all firing forward. We have the Whirlwind to inflict the fight last. We have the Priest. We have the Librarian. We have Dante. I wonder if this list would actually get value out of a Sanguinary Ancient with the Wrath of Baal. Because, you know, if you're going to take 4 jump pack units like this and you're going to try and get them across the table as quick as possible, then the Ancient with Wrath of Baal is probably going to be pretty important here. I think you'd probably get away with, if you need some extra points, you don't have to have 2 squads of infiltrators if you have the Whirlwind as well. 1 squad of infiltrators and 1 squad of incursors or intercessors or something a little bit cheaper would work. 10 Vanguard veterans would be a good combat squad. Yeah, so I guess you've got the Plasma Inceptors to come in and shoot things out. And it's a pretty, yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to say it's a one-dimensional list, but in some ways it is. And, like, this is what happened at that grand tournament, right? If people aren't set up to fight against this, and they deploy aggressively, and they don't expect you to just jump 4 units forward with the extra 2 inches of movement from the Wrath of Baal, we talked about this, then I guess it works, right? But like if you're playing someone that is experienced playing Blood Angels, this list should not work, right? Like if I'm playing against this list, like I just need to deploy backwards, right? Like I do not deploy anything that's going to be able to be turn 1 charged by that Death Company. Or I deploy like a screen of units I don't care about, aka Assault Intercessors. Brian says, good morning everyone, I went 2-1 in RGT yesterday and came in 3rd. Congrats, Brian. Did I do a list for you previously? Or have you just been watching the channel? Yeah, so like, yeah, I think I just have to say that I think it actually came fourth. Oh no, I think it came third. I think you're right. I think you're right. It came third. He beat Sisters of Battle by like a couple of victory points, but he was tabled pretty much. So it was all about scoring this list, or this. I just think this is very one-dimensional, and I think against certain armies and certain enemies, like this list gets hard countered pretty simply. I guess if you're fighting against knights, it makes a lot of sense. You know, you can get in, you can engage those knights, you can do a lot of damage to them. Okay, cool, Brian. I'm glad that you did so well, and I'm glad that my videos or the channel helped you out. But yeah, please submit a list, or submit your list that went third, and we'll have a talk about it at some point. That'd be cool too. I'm sorry, I'm feeling terrible today. Okay. Yeah, so Dante as a force multiplier, jumping forward with Death Company and Sanguinary Guards, and there isn't all that much else to say, right? Like, the Plasmas are going to drop down and clear things out. The Infiltrators are to hold the backfield. Harper took Stranglehold every game, played to score. Yeah, I mean, play to score is definitely a thing to do as well. Did Harper have Rights of War in his list? I spoke to him last week, Highland. I think I was going to... I actually forgot that I'm away at the tournament this week. I'm going to have to message him, but... Oh shit, I need to message... Yeah, I've got 2 interviews coming up and I completely forgot I'm away this week. Bollocks. I need to message them after this then. Okay. So yeah, these lists can win games, and these lists can run over opponents. And I mean, that's how we used to win games and run over opponents in previous editions, right? But some enemies completely hard counter this. And I have a nightmare back, I think it was the beginning of 9th edition against Iron Hands, where Andrew had a Leviathan Dreadnought who'd been enhanced by a Tech Marine, so he was hitting on 2s. And in a single turn, I think that Leviathan Dreadnought killed an entire squad of Sanguinary Guard. And then I went and charged him the next turn with another squad of Sanguinary Guard, and he used some stratagem where you can Overwatch on a 4, and he killed 5 out of 7 of the second sort of Sanguinary Guard. And that was pretty much the nail in the coffin for me running lists like that, where it was I don't want all my eggs in one basket. And I think this puts all your eggs in one basket pretty heavily. It's fine to put all your eggs in one basket if you're committed to it and you know it and you feel like you can get the wins out of it. When I was doing that, I was not winning at a good rate. I was winning 50-50 games. I would say 50%. I won one. I actually think I was probably down maybe a 40% win rate, which is kind of what the Blood Angels our win rate is right now in the tournament scene, right? It's kind of a 40% win rate, 30% even, 30-40%. That's how I felt when I was running all melee, and I was running a squad of Vanguard Veterans, a squad of Sanguinary Guard, and a squad of Death Company, and they were all big. I think the Death Company was a 10-man, I think the Sanguinary Guard was a 9, and I think the Vanguard Veterans was an 8. And I was running the Sanguinary Ancient with the Wrath of Baal, and I was also running, I think at that time I was running a second Sanguinary Ancient with Icon of the Angel, so I had one Ancient giving me +2 movement, and the other Ancient giving me all the rerolls on charges. But yeah, obviously the Ancient was kind of overcosted as well at that point, but still, it's a tough one. Okay, so this list doesn't do well against hordes or it's not durable at all, and I think that's the problem that I found running these lists, right? You just have 25, 26 2-moon Marines, that's it, right? Your Death Companies are 8s and your Sanguinary Guards are 7. Yeah, so best case you've got 30 2-moon Marines. Well, we all know how quickly 2-moon Marines die against Admech, against Death Guard. Colin's stupid Flesh Tearers can kill 10 2-moon Marines in a turn, and that's a 100-point model, right? Or a 130-point model. And he's got 3 of them, obviously. So you're talking about I honestly don't get how he did so well at that tournament. Good for him, because like I guess he never played Death Guard. There's that. And maybe he's got strategies against Death Guard, but if Death Guard are running the Revolting Stench Vats, like I saw Stephen Vox play against Death Guard with his Blood Angels and lose like 90 points to 30. Like, he had literally no chance in that game. It wasn't that Stephen played badly, it's just like that Death Guard list with Mortarion and Foul Blight Spawn, or I think it was 2 Foul Blight Spawns, is a complete hard counter to charging armies, right? Like, if any of these units charge, they just have to fight last. And against Death Guard, when you're fighting last, you're probably losing half your models when you jump in. So yeah, I mean, you could probably make this list better by including Vanguard Veterans. You could probably make this list better by including a Sangreal Ancient if you are going all in on the early on the early additional movement and charges. And we had to make some changes to our librarian anyway, so you could probably make things even stronger by picking up Null Zone there as well, because obviously Death Company or Sangreal Guard don't have invulnerable saves, so Null Zone wrecks the enemies and doesn't really affect you. So I'm just going to score this. OBSEC, I guess the 2 OBSEC units is like a 7.5. Anti-Horde, firepower is very little. We've got like 14 bolters here. I guess we've got our Plasma Inceptors, and that makes things not terrible, but again, you probably don't want to be shooting Plasma Inceptors into like Horde-based lists. So I'd go like a 7. 3 damage weapons, we have 8 hammers here. And Dante's pistol. Okay, so 9 3 damage weapons, and I guess if you manage to make the charge with all these hammers, yeah, you're going to do some good work. He's got 1 Sangreal Guard with fists and 1 with swords. I would probably mix them, just because like you can never tell in a battle 100% that the squad with all swords are going to be able to get into the right targets. The squad with all fists are going to be able to get into those other targets. I would probably mix them, but I think this is similar. I think this is an 8-5. Mobility in this list, I guess, is probably one of the highest we've seen today. Everything has a jump pack, except the Whirlwind and the Infiltrators. So probably mobility is up at like a 9. And then specialization, we've got the Fight Last, we've got 1 Deny, we've got a couple of units for actions, we've got 9 3 damage weapons, and I guess we're starting with 9 CP as well. So, yeah, I mean, when you look at it on paper, I guess this is kind of comes in as today's highest scoring list, but like, personally, I just don't like this. And it's a bit like talking earlier about how we're going Flesh Tearers. Like, if you go Flesh Tearers drop pods and you get first turn and you get your drop pod down and everything makes charges, you have a really good game. But on another battle, you don't get your drop pod down, everything's screened, you can't make those turn 1 charges, and your army gets shot. You lose half the army before you get across the board. And this feels the same, right? Like, if you play a good opponent that knows exactly what to expect from Blood Angels, then and they're really smart, well-rounded opponent, they can beat this very, very easily. If you play someone that's not going to quite expect how quickly we can get across the board and like turn 2 charge right across their line potentially, then, and obviously, you know, we can daisy chain, I guess, with this list, right? We could daisy chain one of these squads of Death Company to have like full chapter master rerolls and full chapter master rerolls, and what's the other thing? Sangreal Blood Chalice, Assault Doctrine in turn 1. So yeah, if you do all that, then and yeah, I guess terrain is another good point, Highland Phoenix, that terrain can play into this. So I think this list wins in terms of the highest scoring list today. Personally, I don't overly like it, but I mean, it went 3rd in a grand tournament or a very similar list, and hopefully we'll get Jack on the channel probably the week after next. I forgot that I'm away. I'm going to have to message 2 people and say I need to reschedule. I feel so stupid now. But I will get that done. So, okay, guys, I'm going to call it today. I mean, I'm feeling terrible, and we are about 15 minutes early, so it's fine. I will be back, hopefully feeling a lot better tomorrow night, to play Andrew's Sisters of Battle. We're playing Andrew's tournament list, so we'll probably be using my tournament list, and then we're away on Friday for a couple of days to do this tournament, and hopefully it'll go well. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed today's stream. If you did, you want to hit that like button. It's much appreciated. If you're new here, you could also consider subscribing. That is also very much appreciated. Thanks for the well wishes. I'm sure I'll be fine. I just need to take it easy. And, you know, I guess I was so excited that we finally sold our house. So we're going to be moving to a new house. I have no idea how that's going to mess with the channel when we move house. I imagine that means that, like, I might not have internet for a week. I don't know. It's going to be the last week in October, so you're going to have to bear with me. But once we're moved house, hopefully we're never going to have to do fingerless gloves again, right? Because, like, the house we're moving into is built, it's a lot newer. So, and I'm hoping to have a lot more space. I'd like to have some cabinets behind me that, like, show off all the models that I've painted. And maybe even like to get some, like, Blood Angels wall art and stuff. So I'm excited to get moved and actually, yeah, it'll be great. I want to replace this chair that I'm sitting on as well. It's absolutely terrible. So I'm excited to get moved and then hopefully continue to deliver good content. And this week's video that I've been working on is going to be pretty cool, hopefully. And it's going to focus on the fight phase. And it's going to have a whole bunch of tips and tricks to get the most out of the fight phase. So, playing Sisters is not taking it easy. No, that's very true. And the last couple of games against Sisters have been very, very close. So I guess we'll see what happens. Alright, guys, have a really good rest of your Sunday. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see some of you tomorrow night. And then I'm sure I'll see you guys later this week for the tactics video. And there might be some other bonus video coming out this week I've been working on too. So, have a good evening. When are you moving? The wife was talking to me. The last week of October is when we're moving, and I'm super excited. But it's a ton of packing. I do not know how I have this much stuff. I actually started trying to pack up. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this box. This is just like one box of sprues. Someone was saying last night, they're like, do you 3D print anything? I was like, no, I just have all... These are all, like, Sangregard sprues, Death Company sprues, just sprues. This is, like, one box. So once I get the new place, you'll be able to see... you'll be able to see just how much of a backlog I have. It's ridiculous. You're very welcome, James. Thanks for tuning in. I always appreciate when people who have their armies reviewed are here to have a look at them. So thanks for being here. Thanks to all the regulars as well. Having you guys here is always really nice. I will see you hopefully tomorrow night, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Peace.